Purdue snaps their 11-game losing streak, beating Ball State at home 31-0. An awesome win for Barry Odom in his first game here at Purdue. Great games by a lot of different bowlers along the way. I'm going to give grades for the offense, defense, and special teams alongside some of my players of the game. Let's go and jump right into it. Boiler up. Special teams is often overlooked and not talked about, but that was definitely a strength for Purdue today. When it comes to returners, there were no big returns, but they took care of the ball. There were no fumbles, there were no miscues that cost the team, so they did the minimum they needed for their job. When it comes to field goals, for Ball State, they went 0 for 2. Purdue went 5 of 5 on kick attempts. Now, 4 of those were extra points. Only 1 was a field goal, but still, those guaranteed points are huge, and making sure we get those is awesome. But the thing that really stood out to me was the punting game. Punter Jack McAllister for Purdue had 4 punts and averaged over 49 yards per punt, downing them inside the 5 at least 2 or 3 times. So he had a great game. And those differences in field position is what kind of helped our defense force a shutout. Starting at the 5 instead of starting at the 30 or the 40, right, takes a 20 to 30 yard gain from putting you into field goal range, or potentially a range that you want to go for on 4th down, in a range that when you stop them, they're just going to punt it and you get the ball back and start over again, right? So winning that field position battle was huge for Purdue. And helped both their offense and defense. It is definitely something that kind of glued this team together. And I would give our special teams an A today. Purdue's defense obviously had a pretty good game, shutting out Ball State today. Before the game, I said my key defensively was controlling quarterback Keel Kelly, forcing him to use his arm as a passer. And I would say they did a pretty solid job of that. Kelly was able to get some scrambles, get some yards. He did rush for 63 yards, but I was on 22 attempts. So he had a decent amount of yards, but really his per carry average was not that great. Also, passing, he was 10 of 16 for 87 yards. So that's 150 yards total for Keel Kelly, who I would say that counts as contained in my eyes. Obviously, no touchdowns for anybody on the Ball State defense. Purdue, 7 tackles for loss, 4 sacks as a team today, so pretty good job overall. The staff worked in a lot of different players at all levels of the defense. You saw the D-line swapping around a lot early. Later, you saw lots of linebackers coming in, but the starters, Manny Powell and Charles Correa, definitely played really well, owned leadership roles where you saw them communicating with other guys and being kind of that quarterback for the defense. On the back end, we saw Miles Slusher and Taj Rael start, and Taj Rael actually led the Boilermakers in tackles 7. But overall, you saw a lot of different people switching in, getting a shot here in this game, and I think the staff is going to use that information to keep tweaking things, how they run their scheme, who runs at what time, all those kind of things as we head into week 2 against SIU. Overall, I would say it was a good defensive outing. There were some concerns with runs to the outside, I think, on misdirections, jet sweeps, screens, stuff like that. But those are all things that are just kind of disciplinary things that can get cleaned up pretty simply, I would think, generally. And overall, the defense did a great job. So I would give them a solid B+. Purdue's offense had a solid showing in their first game with over 400 yards of total offense, 31 points scored, all of those things. Pretty good signs overall for game 1, as things will hopefully only get better as the season progresses. Quarterback Ryan Brown did pretty well in his first start for Barry Odom with over 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns in the air, and 1 on the ground. At wide receiver, he threw to 7 different players that caught passes. The top 2 were definitely Armand Branch, who had 103 yards and touchdown, and then also Michael Jackson III, who had 72 and a touchdown, both having really solid games. After that, Devin Mockabee had 45 yards receiving, which is almost as many as he had on the ground, as he had 59 on the ground. So the ground game was not super imposing. They were held under 100 yards, which I didn't love. But a lot of these passes, like you see Devin Mockabee having a bunch of receiving yards, Antonio Harris also had a big reception at the running back spot, were just quick swing passes that are essentially another function of the run game in terms of just getting the ball out quick to a guy in flat with some blockers headed that way, right, that are going to help him try to make a play. And so I'm not super worried, but I am a little concerned. We saw lots of different things going on offensively, though. Started off really RPO heavy, ended up running a little bit at some points, ended up with some intermediate and deep passing concepts as well. So they definitely got to test out a lot of things. And overall, I would say a very solid day. I would give Purdue's offense a B+. First player of the game has got to be Jack McAllister, the punter for Purdue. He's a transfer from Nebraska, and he absolutely killed it. Like I said earlier in this video, 4 punts, nearly 200 yards of punting, and trapped them down inside the 5 a couple of times for us. So he made a huge difference in the field position game, earning himself first player of the game. Second player of the game is going to be senior linebacker Manny Powell. Manny Powell is a leader on that defense, not just statistically, but also verbally. As a leader, he was communicating calls. The defense did a good job of getting them aligned, all those kind of things, alongside having 4 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. So that's a pretty good statistical day to back up his on-field role as well for Manny Powell. And then my very last one is going to be redshirt sophomore quarterback Ryan Brown. Quarterback was one of the biggest spots of concern, question, whatever you want to say, throughout fall camp, as it was a true four-man battle at one point. And he came out the leader despite being there the least amount of time. And he had a really good game today, right? We said over 300 yards of offense, 69% completions, 3 total touchdowns, and just did a really good job managing the offense. Played the pocket well, moving around and stuff like that. He's a couple throws he wants back probably, but overall a very good start and stuff you could definitely build on for Purdue. Overall, I would say this is a B+ to A day for Purdue. Let me know what you think. What would you give Purdue? Who would your players of the day be? Let me know down below.